Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to my evening news report right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. With low unemployment, advocates push employers to hire people with disabilities. Twice a week, Maxwell Rand boards a bus from Concord High School and makes the trek to Five Guys on Fort Eddy Road. There, the 19-year-old will sweep, clean tables, wash the windows, and occasionally make milkshakes. His favorite part, he said, is talking to the people. Emptying out the trash, less so. If he gets a little confused, he can consult a velcroed arm band that holds step-by-step instructions about what he's supposed to do. His coworkers can help him out too, as can Caroline Keene, an educational assistant from the high school assigned to be his job coach. These days, Keene said she mostly tries to stay out of his way. Maxwell, who has autism, is part of a program at Concord High that helps students with disabilities aged 18 to 21 get work experience before they transition out of the school system. The program is trying to chip away at a stubborn problem: dismissal rates of employment for people with disabilities. Nationwide, disability advocates recently celebrated some good news. The roughly 40-point employment gap between people with disabilities and without contracted somewhat, likely thanks to a rebounding economy. But on the ground in New Hampshire, advocates say far more needs to be done, and just this week recreated Governor Chris Sununu, a Republican, to establish a task force to study the issue. Meanwhile, bad news came down the pike too. Vocational Rehabilitation, the Bureau at the state's Department of Education in charge of helping people with disabilities find work and live independently, announced Friday it would need to reduce services in order to avoid a budget shortfall. Commissioner of Education Frank said the agency would probably have to find about $1 million in spending cuts. It's unclear at this point where the axe will fall. Frank said those currently getting help through the agency will retrain services, but that newcomers would be prohibited based on need. At Concord High School, Sarah Haynes, the special education teacher who helped coordinate Maxwell's internship, is worried. She said, "I think it is going to hurt us." Vocational Rehabilitation had just ramped up its services and had been contracting with community programs to do outreach to employers, work with kids to identify career goals, and crucially pay for transportation. A key obstacle to employment for those with disabilities. But Haynes said The main problem remains the same. Too few employers are willing to take the leap. Americans with disabilities reached a milestone in March, with employment indicators showing increases for the 24th consecutive month, according to the Kessler Foundation and the University of New Hampshire, which tracks disability employment trends. And while employment rates for people without disabilities still remain much higher, gains for disabled people outpaced those of their non-disabled peers. Two market coordinators are probably contributing to these programs. Houtville said, on the one hand, raising wages might be helping people overcome obstacles to employment like transportation. And on the other, rock bottom unemployment numbers are likely pressuring employers to consider workers they might have otherwise overlooked. That certainly bears out in Max's case. That's not uncommon. Haynes and Megan Comstock, another teacher in the transition program at Concord High, both mentioned employers with a personal connection to disability are typically the ones willing to work with them. That's especially true in small businesses, Houtville said. Lisa is the director of ABLE New Hampshire, disability rights organization that pushed for the task force. Lisa wants the task force to look at ways to simply the bureaucracy for accessing services, provide more transportation options, and more crucially, get more employers are bored. Lisa often points to the sub-born 40-point gap in employment between people with disabilities and those without as plainly wrong. But she's also concerned about quality of work. About 60% of the people with disabilities who work and receive support and services only work an average of 2 to 9 hours a week, she said. And available jobs often don't pay very well. It's a concern that's shared by Haynes and Comstock. Both teachers said they hope a greater diversity of employers will decide to work with their program. Manufacturing, for example, would be great, they said, especially for autistic students who excel at the following complex multi-step procedures. And while employing someone with a disability requires some level of flexibility, they emphasize that students and employers aren't left to fend for themselves. The program matches jobs with the right students, provides job coaches, one-on-one help, and transportation. I think what we found is once people let us in the door, it works. It's like, oh, this is great. We're helping you, you're helping us, but it's scary to commit to try something like that out, Comstock said. And that does it for my evening news report right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening, and I'll be back with more news reports tomorrow. Good night, everyone. Bye.